this is the video for 7.8, working with complex numbers. This first problem, if I wanted to simplify it, I could turn this into the square root of -1 times the square root of 12. And the square root of -1 is I. So I is going to be on the outside. And then this I could break down into the square root of 4 times the square root of 3, and the square root of 4 is 2, so I'm going to put 2 on the outside, and then the square root of 3 is going to be left. And so that's it simplified. Problem 32 is about kind of distributing this negative. So really you're going to have 5 minus 3i, and then this is going to become a -9, and this is going to become a -2i. So now when you combine those terms, you have a -9 and a +4, so that's going to leave you with a -4. And then you have these two negative i's, so it's going to become a subtract of 5i. And that's the answer to that one in complex form. And then here we're going to start multiplying with these complex numbers. So I'm going to do -4 times a +3, and that's going to be a -12. And then I'm going to do -4 times a -4i, and it's going to be a +16i. And then I'm going to multiply this +5i times 3, so it's going to be a +15i. And then I'm going to multiply this 5 times the 4i, so really it's going to become a -20i squared, and I know that really this -20 is going to end up being -20 times -1, because I squared is -1. So a negative times a negative is a positive, so it's going to leave me with a +20. And then I'm going to have 31i when you combine that 16 and 15. And then over here you have this -12. And if you clean that up, you're going to have +8 plus 31i. That's the answer to 54. The last one, in order to get rid of this situation, I don't really know how to say it, but you're going to multiply by the conjugate. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to do 7 plus 4i, and I'm going to multiply it by that. But whatever I do to the bottom, I'm going to do to the top. And as I start doing it, I'm going to start with the top. So 5 times 7 is 35. 5 times 4i is going to give me a +20i. And I'm going to multiply 3 times 7, and that's going to give me a +21i. And then 3 times 4 is 12i squared up top. Down on the bottom, I'm going to do 7 times 7, and I'm going to get 49. And then I'm going to do 7 times 4i, and it's going to be a positive, 7 times 4 is 28i. And then I'm going to get the opposite here, because I have this -4i times the 7, so -28i. And I know right away that those will cancel out. And then last but not least, I'm going to do -4i times the +4i, and I'm going to get, a -16i squared. And again, this is a -16 times -1, which is going to leave you with a +16 eventually. So let's clean all this up. I'll do the top up here. So what I'm going to do up top is I'm going to put the i's together. So now I have 41i, and I have this 35 out front. And then really this 12 is plus 12 times -1, because I squared is equivalent to -1. And then on the bottom, I'm going to do a little cleanup, and I have this 49, and -16 times -1 is going to be a +16. I'm not quite done here. I'm going to keep going, except my paper has run out. So this is going to become a -12. So now I have 35 and -12. And 35 and -12 is going to leave me with 23 plus 41i. then if I combine this 49 and 16, I'm going to get 65. I think we could leave it like that, or we could separate it out like Joe taught us in the video where the 23 is over the 65. I don't think I can reduce it anymore. And the 41i is over the 65. Sorry, my paper isn't quite working. And again, that's in more of a complex form where you have the real number and the imaginary. Okay.